Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Don Stewart, and welcome to another edition of Breaking News. Today is Friday. It's the 8th day of November, 2024. And our top story is something horrible. In the city of Amsterdam, in the Netherlands, there has been a planned pogrom. And a pogrom, of course, is an event where there's a persecution, specific persecution of Jewish people. And what's happened is they've terrorized a bunch of people, fans of a soccer game that an Israeli team was playing. They've moved into the Jewish section there in Amsterdam. There's the possibility that hostages were taken, and we're going to keep you updated with this. This is an ongoing story. In fact, I may do a special broadcast later when we know more. Israel is flying airplanes into the Netherlands, even on the Sabbath, where they're not supposed to fly because for the safety of its own people there. So again, this is a story that is terrible, but it's not surprising at all, given what we know about the last days and the persecution that will come to the Jewish people. In another story, for the third straight day, Vladimir Putin, Russia makes the headlines. Putin congratulates Trump on election win, says Russia is ready for a dialogue with the U.S. Again, things are going to be moving so fast when Donald Trump gets into office with respect to Russia, the U.S., and the events that are going to take place in the world. So stay tuned. And also at the same time, the Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei posted another threat to Israel on his new Hebrew language account on the social media platform X, formerly Twitter. Joe Biden has been pushing now for his last 74 days, will push for a ceasefire in Lebanon. I got 74 days while he's still in office, and he's trying to do that both in Lebanon and in Gaza. So we'll talk about that also. All right, let's get to these headlines. Number one, a planned pogrom in Amsterdam. Israeli fans terrorized. This is from Virtual Jerusalem. On November 7th, 2024, Amsterdam witnessed a surge of anti-Jewish violence as pro-Palestinian demonstrations escalated into riots, leaving the city's Jewish community shaken and prompting widespread condemnation. Now, the protest turned violent. The unrest began when a large pro-Palestinian rally in Dam Square. Dam Square, if you've been to Amsterdam, you know where that is. That is kind of the rallying point there, where thousands gathered to protest Israel's recent military actions in Gaza. While the demonstration started peacefully, tensions quickly escalated. A faction of protesters broke away, marching towards the Jewish quarter, chanting slogans and displaying anti-Semitic banners. As the group approached the Portuguese Synagogue, one of Amsterdam's historic Jewish landmarks, violence erupted. Rioters threw stones and bottles, shattering windows and defacing the building with graffiti. Nearby Jewish-owned businesses were also targeted, with several shops looted and vandalized. Okay, the police response initially, of course, they're unprepared for something like this, didn't expect it to happen, the scale of the violence. They've struggled to contain the situation. Reinforcements were called in after several hours. Authorities managed to disperse the rioters using water cannons and tear gas. Dozens of arrests were made, and several officers sustained injuries during the chaos. The Jewish community in Amsterdam, which has a history dating back centuries, was left reeling from the attacks. The chairman of the European Jewish Association expressed deep concern over the events. And here's the key sentence: we are witnessing a record rise in anti-Semitism and the associated existential threat to Jewish lives in Europe. Local Jewish residents reported feeling unsafe in their neighborhoods. Sarah Cohen, a shop owner in the affected area, said, I've lived here my whole life. I've never seen anything like this. It's terrifying. And like political reactions, of course, the Dutch prime minister condemned the violence. There's no place for anti-Semitism in our society. The perpetrators of these heinous acts will be brought to justice. The Amsterdam mayor, Femke Halsema, announced increased security measures in the Jewish neighborhoods and places of worship, pledging to protect all citizens from hate-fueled violence. Now, the broader context, the riots in Amsterdam are part of a disturbing trend of rising anti-Semitism across Europe. In June 2024, an emergency summit was held in Amsterdam to address the growing threat to Jewish communities. The summit concluded with a resolution demanding European decision makers address the record rise in anti-Semitism and associated existential threat to Jewish lives in Europe. And so there are calls for action amongst Jewish organizations now, and we will see the aftermath. Now, this is a developing story. Like we said, Israel is flying a couple military aircraft to get their citizens out of there. There are reports, we don't know how valid they are, some at least up to 10 people missing. The horrible thing to think about is the worry about taking hostages. If they would take Jewish hostages, and you can imagine we don't even have to go into detail what would happen if that was the case. And so we're going to keep an eye on this. If there's more to this later, what we'll do is be a second edition of Breaking News today and kind of bring into detail, give a little background to Amsterdam of all places. There's one place, there's a number of places you go in Europe to remind you of the Holocaust. And one of the most memorable ones for me anyway was the Anne Frank house there in Amsterdam. Anne Frank, many of you know the story, the young Jewish girl who wrote in her diary about what went on during the Second World War, her family hiding from the Nazis. Eventually, she was taken captive and murdered in one of the death camps. And her house has been preserved there. You go in there, and there's a video you can watch, and you can't come out of there without being in tears when you realize what went on and just how frightening it was for these people during the Second World War. So anyway, we'll keep an eye on that. Now, this fits with what the Bible says. Of our 25 signs, we're near the end. Sign 21, there'll be a rise in anti-Semitism. The entire world will be against Israel. And this is from our book, 25 Signs, We're Near the End, which is a free download from our website, Educating Our World. A rise in anti-Semitism. Zechariah 12, 3 and 4. The Lord says, I'm going to make Jerusalem a cup that sends all the surrounding peoples reeling. Judah will be besieged as well as Jerusalem. On that day, when all the nations of the earth are gathered against her, I will make Jerusalem an immovable rock for all the nations. All who try to move it will injure themselves. Now, there's two things in the context here that we bring out that are very interesting in Zechariah 12. First of all, the surrounding nations. And that is basically the nations in the Middle East at that time will all gather against Jerusalem and Israel. But then the whole world will be against them too. And this is talking about the end of the final 7-year period. And it's going to be stopped by the second coming of Christ, by the way. Christ will come and save the people when it looks like they have no hope, the Jewish people, when they turn to him. But the point is, there'll be a time in our world where the entire world will be against the Jewish people, the Israeli people, and fortunately, the Lord will intervene at that time, but only after there's a repentance there. And so we deal with this on our 25 signs. We're near the end, sign number 21, if you're interested in finding out more details. So we'll keep an eye on that. And please pray for these people, because I'm afraid it's just the beginning. There's going to be more and more of this in different cities in Europe, and the Jews, already many of them are leaving Europe, kind of by pre-World War II, to get out of there to save their own skins. And they're going to be going to where? They're going to be going to Israel, and the one place where they know they can be safe, even with all the bombing and all the problems. So anyway, that's our top story. It's a huge story, so please pray. Our second headline, Putin congratulates Trump on election win, says Russia is ready for a dialogue with the U.S. Again, huge story with respect to Bible prophecy. Vladimir Putin congratulates Donald Trump on winning the U.S. election, praises him for showing courage when a gunman tried to assassinate him, and said Moscow is ready for a dialogue with the Republican president-elect. In his first public remarks since Trump's win, Putin said Trump acted like a real man during the assassination attempt on him when he was speaking at a campaign rally in Pennsylvania in July. He behaved, in my opinion, in a very correct way, courageously, like a real man, Putin said at the Valdai Discussion Club and the Russian Black Sea resort of Sochi. I take this opportunity to congratulate him on his election. Putin made his remarks. He says remarks Trump has made during the election campaign about Ukraine and restoring relations with Russia deserved attention. What was said about the desire to restore relations with Russia to bring about the end of the Ukrainian crisis, in my opinion, this deserves attention at least, said Putin. Trump said during the campaigning he could bring peace in Ukraine within 24 hours if elected, but has given few details on how he would seek to end the biggest land war in Europe since the Second World War. The 72-year-old Kremlin chief gave one note of caution. I don't know what is going to happen now. I have no clue. Now, they've repeatedly, both Russia and Trump, repeatedly dismissed as nonsense some claims in the Western media that Trump was sort of a Russian agent of influence. Russian officials say during his first term from 2017 to 2021, Trump was tough on Russia, and he certainly was. And Moscow has also repeatedly denied U.S. assertions that they meddled in the 2024 election and spread disinformation in an attempt to sow chaos. Now, why is this important? Russia will eventually lead, as we know, a last days invasion of Israel. Among other things, it means they will be powerful enough to put a coalition together from countries in the vicinity, including Iran and Turkey. Now, in our book, 25 Signs, we're near the end. There's two appendices that have something to do with this, Appendix 4 and 5. When the war broke out on October 7, 2023, we did a little appendix, said the war with Israel and Hamas beginning October 7, 2023 is not the Ezekiel 38-39 invasion. And what we did there, we listed a number of things, what the invasion will participate of, who will participate, and what it means. We're talking about the Russian leader there. And then we had a fifth appendix, would a regional war between Iran and Israel fulfill Bible prophecy? And the answer is no. So if you want to check out in detail about Russia's involvement, this and that, what it is and what it isn't, what's going on, what's not going on, please check out that. It's a free download from Educating Our World. And as we're doing this, as always, it's incredible, just like clockwork. I'm getting all these red alert notices on my iPad here of rockets and missiles fired into Israel from Lebanon. It is literally nonstop, people. Hezbollah is doing their best to keep all this going. So knowing something will happen soon with Donald Trump in office, with the Biden administration, of course, I've had this, let's get together and sing Kumbaya and just make peace. And which we know does not work. So anyway, they're doing what they can now before Trump takes, office 74 days from now. And we'll have a story after this next one. Well, first though, let's go to headline number 3. The Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei posts another threat to Israel on his new Hebrew language account on the social media platform X. The world will certainly see the day when the Zionists are defeated in a resounding defeat by the resistance, Khamenei writes, amid indications of an imminent Iranian response to Israeli recent retaliatory strike. Iran's so-called axis of evil and proxies in the Middle East includes Hamas in Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon, Houthis in Yemen, and the Syrian and Iraqi militant groups. And let's not forget in the West Bank, Judea, Samaria, you've got Hezbollah working there with the terrorists. And it has vowed a punishing reprisal to Israel's October 26 airstrikes, which Jerusalem said took out the Islamic Republic's air defense and missile production capabilities. And so remember, this is hanging over everyone. But here's the big question, as we're going to see with our next story. Will they do anything? What will happen? The next 74 days are going to be huge during the end of the Biden administration and the beginning of the second Trump administration. And here's why. Headline number 4, Biden pushing for Lebanon-Gaza ceasefire in the last 74 days. Hezbollah leader Ibrahim al-Musawi said that Hezbollah welcomes any effort to stop the war in Lebanon, but does not pin hopes for a ceasefire on any particular U.S. administration. State Department spokesman Matthew Miller told reporters on Thursday in the aftermath of Donald Trump's re-election to the White House, we will continue to pursue an end to the war in Gaza and into the war in Lebanon, a surge of humanitarian assistance. This is our duty to pursue these policies right up until noon on January 20th, Miller said. We have no shortage of work to do over the next 74 days and are determined to make the most of the time left. As our president said today, let's make every day count. What happened was there was a speech that Biden gave to the nation. He's going to try and accomplish a few things during his last 74 days here in office. Well, so here's the big question. Will Iran, fearing a Trump presidency, be encouraged to make a deal with Israel and Gaza and Lebanon and not attack and start a regional war? This is definitely a possibility. And also, too, what's really worrisome, very worrisome, there's a story we have by Caroline Glick, our fifth headline. She says Israel should take out Iran's nukes, as Trump himself said a few weeks ago. Caroline Glick is our favorite Israeli author, and she has a story we've got listed here. It's from Arut Shava, Israel National News, in the Israel 365 U.S. election coverage. She says, now's the time to strike. It provides Israel with an opportunity to win the war, achieving the strategic goals. And she urged Israel to take steps to further its goal, including take out Iran's nuclear installation. But then she said this, and this is the worrisome thing right now. Regarding the Biden administration's transition period, she said she expects the Biden administration will move to pass a series of anti-Israel resolutions at the UN Security Council that will work to require Israel to end the war as quickly as possible without a strategic victory. lest we be placed under UN sanctions under this security control, much like Iran was until the Obama administration agreed to give Iran nuclear weapons. Now, Obama did the same thing, if you recall, as he was leaving office. There was a UN resolution that the U.S. didn't vote against. They just abstained from it. It passed an anti-Israel resolution. And so this is the worry that they will do something in the next 74 days that will try to hamper Israel's ability not only to win the war with Hezbollah in the north, Hamas in the south, but also to get rid of Iran's nuclear program. And they want to see a vote. Unfortunately, the U.S. will see a vote in the UN, which usually they would veto. In the Security Council, there's 5 members. They could veto it. They would likely abstain from yes or no, and an abstention would be the same as saying, okay, go ahead. And this will be damaged in Israel. She said, this is the worry. And that's why Caroline Glick said, look, you got to attack right now. And this is one of the stories we've been dealing with. Why wait? Why wait to be attacked by Iran? Why not do a preemptive strike? So anyway, we're got so much going on. So as we say, the transitional time between administration will be key to the future. Will Iran decide not to attack? Will the Biden administration, like Obama, allow the UN to sanction Israel? Stay tuned. So much is going on right now. And as always, a lot has been happening, but right since Donald Trump's election a couple of days ago, it's been an overdrive. So we'll be here every day to give you the latest. Like we said, highly possible later today when we have any updates on what's going on in the Netherlands, we'll let you know. It's very worrisome. All the Israeli websites are dealing with this story. They're concerned for their own citizens. And like I said, there are stories that there are people missing there, Israelis missing. They're afraid they may be hostages. So we'll give you the latest as the events unfold. Anyway, please pray and again realize that the answers are there in the Bible. We've dealt with it in our books on our website, Educating Our World. It's a free download of all of our 65 books, 12 books on Bible prophecy, including our book 25 Signs. We're near the end. Please take advantage of those and pray, and we will keep you posted. Okay, until next time, I'm Don Stewart. Thanks for watching, and may the Lord richly, richly bless.